Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give it about 2 more minutes before we get started. Thank you. All right. So again, good evening. For the sake of everyone's time, we're going to get started. So welcome to our webinar this evening, Linking Math to Daily Planning in the VPK Classroom. My name is Deborah Cruz. I am a Quality and Education Coaching Specialist here at the ELC of Broward. I've been in the field for almost a decade now. I started my teaching experience with student teaching back in the 6th grade. I also taught 3rd grade, which I actually did really enjoy teaching those older students. I have spent most of my time in the preschool classroom though, also taught toddler age children, and I've been the director of a daycare in New York as well. And right now I've been living in South Florida. This summer will be a total of 4 years, and I've been at the ELC for almost 3 years now, where I currently serve as a quality education coaching specialist, working hand in hand with VPK providers and directors that are on probation. And right now I just want to present my colleague to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Templin. I am also a quality education coaching specialist, and I've also been with the ELC for just about under 3 years. And I also have lived in South Florida for about 4 years myself. I have been in this field for around 20 years, and I've had multiple opportunities to work with children inside the classroom as a teacher, as a coaching specialist, and I've been a coordinator of many large different early education projects from past organizations, such as school management, different quality initiatives, and oversight for NACE accreditations. And a little bit about myself is I am a mom of one little 3-year-old, and we love to watch Pixar movies together. And thank you so much for being here this evening.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. So before we get started, we just wanted to show you a few of our housekeeping rules this evening. Many of you are already very familiar with it, but you can click on the orange rectangle with the white arrow pointing in order to use your panel. You can also click on the questions triangle. That's going to be on the panel, and you can just type in any questions or comments that you have throughout the training. Of course, if you want to download any handouts, you're going to click on the handouts triangle, and you can do so now, or feel free to download those handouts at a later point during the training. So more about your certificates and attendance. At the moment, all ELC Broward trainings are for in-service hours only. Your training certificate is going to be emailed to the email address in which you registered for tonight's webinar. In order to be marked as attended, you must log into the computer, or you can also download the GoToWebinar app on your phone. However, if you just call in, we're not going to be able to collect that attendance. And then the final thing is that upon completion of the training, you're going to receive a post-test and you'll also receive a survey. We do ask that you complete these 2 forms in order for you to receive your in-service hours. And then finally, we added a slide recently, and it's being included in all of our trainings moving forward. And basically, it simply states that we do not have any vested interest in the materials or the information that is being presented to you all. So to get started, we have an icebreaker for this evening. Because our concept is math, we want to give you the opportunity now to answer this question, and it is, how many total squares are there? So you can take this opportunity to write your response into the chat box.
I'm so excited to see the responses. It's been a stumper for our practices, so we'll see if it stumps anybody here tonight.
Definitely. When Stephanie and I came to a few conclusions, it was definitely a collaborative effort. So, okay, so we do have some responses coming in. I see the number 9, 11. Let's see, a few more, another 9.
We have a few 10s also, a 14, Andrea, and squares, at least 10 or more. 10.
A lot of number 10s, yep, 10. All right, so 14, 14, 10. All right, Steph, do you think that we should give them the results now?
Absolutely. So let's check this out and count some squares together. So we have our initial 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we also have 10, 11, and then this is 12 and 13. And then one total big box is 14. So congratulations to those who actually got the correct answer on the first try. Bravo.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit more tricky than it appears at first, but there were quite a bit of you that were to come up with that answer of 14, and you guys are absolutely correct. And thank all of you for participating with us. All right, so now we're going to move on to our learning outcomes. These are some of just the things that we want you all to take away with tonight's training. So first, we want to identify the mathematics learning domain and its 6 components. Afterwards, we're going to explain how to connect mathematics components along with other early learning developmental domains. And then finally, we're going to discover different times of the day where mathematics can be incorporated to daily planning. So those are the 3 takeaways. And we have this quick quote that we wanted to share with you. Arithmetic is being able to count up to 20 without taking off your shoes. And that was stated by the lovely Mickey Mouse. So early math for preschoolers, right? What does that look like? What does it look like in our classrooms? What is early math exactly? We can take this opportunity actually now in the chat box. Just think about a few words that come to your mind when you think of the term math or the subject math. What do you think about? And we'll give you about a minute or so to respond in the chat box. Okay, so I'm going to start reading some of the results as they're coming in. Someone says numbers, patterns, it's another terminology that's being included in the chat box, counting, shapes. Yes, it's definitely the chat box that we're using. Correct. Problem solving, critical thinking, counting, numbers, addition. Math is used daily in everyday life. Again, critical thinking, numbers, shapes, patterns, sorting, measuring. So great, you guys are really sharing a lot of awesome terms, pretty much a lot that is composed of math, right? That someone also just said that number sense. And I think the really big one is being able to make that connection that math is definitely a part of our everyday life. So thank you all for sharing so far. So then we have this question in front of you, or actually the statement, and it says, math is about number knowledge, patterns, size, shape awareness, and the relationship between objects and space. Now, do we think that is true or false? And that is our first poll this evening. So please select one, and for whatever reason you are not able to use the poll, you can feel free to also respond in the chat box. So again, respond if you think that this statement is either true or false. And I think we'll leave another 5 seconds or so. All right, so Stephanie is sharing the results with us, and 97% of you agree that that is a true statement, and you're absolutely correct, right? Math composed of so many different factors. We talked about it too in the chat box, that number knowledge, patterns, size, shapes, all of these different components are components of math. Okay, so we have our first video of the evening. And when you're watching this video, what we would like you to do is just to watch and listen for the different aspects of math that is going to be described. Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that. So as you watched this video, what were some aspects of math that you heard described in the video? What were some of those questions or statements that you heard from the teachers? I'll give everyone about a minute to feel free to respond into the chat box about some of the things that were described. And Steph, were you able to hear any of the questions as well?
One area that stuck out was how they discussed having conversations around math and also being comfortable with math. I know I was not comfortable at the very beginning when I was in the classroom, so I took a lot of professional development on it to become more comfortable with the subject, as it was not my strongest subject at school. So I think it's important to be open to learning about a subject that might intimidate you.
Of course, right? Kind of just, you know, playing off of our weaknesses and ways that we can make that stronger and be more comfortable in, you know, subject areas that may not be within our comfort zone, right? So someone did also say that the statement that was said was that math is all around us, which is something else that another participant said a few minutes ago. And that's something that we really have to be aware of. We also, a statement says that math is big and everywhere. Math can be as simple as daily conversation, right? I think that's a really big component of math that necessarily we don't always think about. We might think of those, you know, big conversations taking place only in literature, and just being aware that some of those more complex dialogue can be used in math as well. Someone said, yeah, I had a lot of anxiety involving math, which I think is a big thing for many people. Math is part of science. Exactly. There were other statements I heard throughout the training, throughout this video. It was, is it fair? How much more? How many more are there, right? So kind of making those comparison questions and statements and measurements. So all of these different components are powered of math, and all of these like in-depth conversations and dialogue is also another factor. Okay, and then we have our quick chat box check. So mathematics builds blank, which leads to comprehension. So do we think that is decoding? Is it part of reasoning? Is it subsidizing, or is it part of our social emotional skills? So take that moment and you can just jot down the letter of the answer that you think fits best. Yeah, and we are already seeing a bunch of responses coming into the chat box.
This is a very clever group.
Most definitely. Yeah, you guys are pretty much all getting this correct. And it is, I'll let Stephanie share, reasoning, right? Mathematics builds upon reasoning, which leads to those comprehension skills. Okay, and right now I'm gonna hand over the presentation back to Stephanie, and she's gonna talk a little bit more about mathematical thinking domain.
Hi, everyone. And once again, thank you for being here and being so participatory in our chat box. We love to see all of you really taking part in our training, so we appreciate that. And we're going to go take a look at the mathematical domain and familiarize ourselves with the components and standards of the mathematical thinking domain. So once we open up the domain, we see that it is the 5th domain of the Florida Early Learning and Developmental Standards. And it says here, the most important aspect at the very end is that for young children, math is about number knowledge, patterns, size, shape, awareness, and the relationship between objects and space. And that is a great understanding that we have all collectively agreed upon as we talked together in the chat box. So that is the umbrella idea over the components and standards of this domain, mathematical thinking. So if you access the standards online, it will look like this, and you can select the purple triangle here for mathematical thinking. And then below it says ages, you would select the 4-year-olds to kindergarten to get the age group for your students. And now we have a quick little trivia question. Without looking it up, how many components do you find in the mathematical thinking domain? And you can just throw that in the chat box once you have thought about it for a moment. How many components? We have 6, 4, 8. I know those are some numbers of some different domains. All right, we have some answers coming in. I see some 6s happening. Andrea and Helen and Catherine. And we have a number 8, a 7, a 6 from Crystal, and some more 6s. All right, so let's reveal our trivia questions answer. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 components, says our cute little bird from Khan Academy kids. 6 components. So let's look at those components. So we can see we have the 6 components right here: number sense, which is counting, one-to-one correspondence, cardinality, and then we have numbers and operations, taking things apart, putting them together. We have patterns, A-B patterns, and then more complicated patterns. We have geometry, which is understanding different shapes and recognizing different shapes and being able to describe those shapes and understand why they can recognize that shape as a triangle. Not just because you say it's a triangle, but because they have an understanding that a triangle has 3 points or 3 sides. Then we have spatial relations, which works on directional language and the relationship between objects in space. And then we have measurement and data collection. So those are the 4 components that we see within our mathematical thinking domain. So now we're just going to see an example of a standard. So once you click on one of the letters, you'll see I clicked on C patterns here, and then it shows us the 3 standards we have for our patterns. We have identifies and extends a simple A-B pattern. And now we ask them to now duplicate a simple A-B pattern using different objects. And then recognizing the unit of repeat of a more complex pattern and extends the pattern. So they recognize the unit of repetition and then they extend it and repeat it. So those are the example of the standards for patterns. And now we have a little pop quiz, which you're going to love. For those of you who have been working with the standards for a long time, you're going to get this right away. For those who are a little newer, it might take you a second or two. So I would like you to please write this standard in its reading format. We're going to say mathematical thinking patterns, and let's do standard number 3. Number 2, let's do number 2. What does that look like? You can type that into the box. How would you put that on your lesson planning sheet for the week? How do you connect that to your curriculum? How do you write that in? What is that format? Give everybody a moment to think about that. I know it takes me a moment to always organize in that way. And then we can reveal the answer. I see some of you worked very hard to come up with simply VC2. We have the domain, you would write V, your component, which is an uppercase C, and then the standard, which is number 2. So that's the writing. So that's the writing and reading format that you would use on your lesson plans. to connect your standards with everything that you're doing inside the classroom. And then finally, we want to keep this idea with us while we're talking about lesson planning and connecting our curriculum, that the standards are a guide on the appropriate skills and development, and we can keep the goals of the standard and curriculum in mind while planning and providing mathematical experiences. So you want to think of the end in mind. What do you want the children to be able to do after the experience you provide? Is it counting? Is it subsidizing? Is it understanding one-to-one correspondence? And then build upon your lesson in that order. Okay, so now we're going to do an activity as we start to look at connecting the mathematical thinking domains to the additional Florida Early Learning Standards development domains. So we're going to identify the domains in action in a variety of scenarios. We're going to use some videos, some lesson plans, and some written scenarios for you to identify multiple domains happening in action. So we can practice and really see that connection that mathematics has with so many different learning domains, as we have discussed that mathematics can be everywhere. So here's our first video, and then I'm going to just reveal our domains for you right there to keep an eye on as we're going to share the next video. So keep in mind when we're looking, what other domains, language and literacy, social, emotional development, physical development, what other domains you see taking place while they are having this mathematical discussion and problem? All right, so that was an excellent video of math activity in progress and connecting it to a real life problem that the children could understand. And we saw that the children got to handle the materials beforehand to be able to have this conversation with the teacher and make those guesses with the prediction of what container will hold more. So as you watch this, what other domains could we see in action? What other domains could we connect to this activity that teacher presented to the children? So as you think think, did you see any social emotional development? Was there language and literacy being focused on? Were there elements of scientific inquiry or social studies? Oh, definitely we have a few people who definitely saw some science inquiry. Absolutely, a lot of hypothesis and prediction, and they were interacting. So we did see social emotional development. They were interactive, and then definitely some language. Yes, we saw that she definitely described how she was working on the children to describe how is it bigger, how is it taller, to really get specific on how they can describe mathematical terms. And definitely we saw a lot of different domains within this one quick video clip. And approaches to learning, of course, because we're seeing how the children are thinking and how they are applying their previous knowledge and how they are attempting to solve this problem together. So let us think about, after watching and reflecting on that video, we saw some different activities happen with the children. What do we think about this statement? Children do not need hands-on experiences to understand mathematical concepts. Do you agree or disagree? So we are going to share that in a poll. I'm going to launch it. So please let me know, children do not need hands-on experiences to understand mathematical concepts? Is that statement true or false? What do you think? All right, we have 40% have already voted. Excellent. We want to hear from all of you, so keep voting. Every vote counts because everyone's opinion counts, because we love to see where we're all at, so we know how to continue on with our training. So we love your feedback. We got 70%. I think we can make it a little higher. Give you some more time. All right, and we'll give it about, oh, we have some false in the question boxes here. Thank you for adding it to the question box if you're not able to use the poll. Thank you. All right, let's us close this poll up and share the results. Children do not need hands-on experiences to understand math concepts, and that is false. They do need to handle materials and to be able to touch real objects, because mathematics is a very abstract concept at times. So you really want them handling different shapes or touching and feeling, counting figurines. So we're going to put that one as a false. Children do need hands-on experiences. And in the video, we even saw that the children got an opportunity at the water table to really transfer the water back and forth, not only working on their physical development, but also working on their understanding of how much each cup holds, how does it feel, and what does it look like, so they could really understand and participate in that conversation. I believe that conversation would have been a lot different if they did not give the children an opportunity to handle the objects beforehand. That little boy would not have been able to be so expressive and discuss the weight of the object and how much it weighed and how he was experiencing his understanding of math. So thank you everybody for participating in that. We're going to keep moving right along. We have a scenario. That was excellent. We did excellent with that first video clip. Now let's try this one. So let me read it for you. Children are using materials to create and cut construction paper into small squares with safety scissors. Next, the children use the pieces to create mosaics that have been previously introduced. One child made a picture of a heart with her squares. Another child created a yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue line, and one child randomly placed the squares on the paper. When this teacher moved to the center, she used this opportunity to discuss repeating patterns, asked one of the children to pick out a certain number of squares of the same color, and asked the other child how many pink squares did she use for her mosaic art. So as we have just gone through that scenario, think about what additional learning domains can connect to this activity in the classroom. And we'll give everybody a minute to think about that, reflect, and start typing away. Yes, we did see some counting, so we did see the mathematical thinking domain, but which other domains could we also intertwine with their activity? Fine motor skills, so we can definitely put in physical development was being worked on as they were using their fine motor skills and their thinking skills of applying the previous knowledge. So we have approaches to learning. And then we have creative expression through the arts. Yes, they were experiencing all of these mathematical concepts and counting and pattern recognition through art, which was a very hands-on creative experience that allowed the teacher opportunity to connect math to the art center. So, and yes, it was very interactive, which does help children understand different concepts, especially in mathematics. Well done, everyone. I'm so excited for you to see the next clip. So this is about a kindergarten class. However, you can definitely see how we could adjust the activities to make them fit a preschool level expectation, such as the writing wouldn't look as formal, but there would be some forms of writing when you see. And the questions, however, are definitely questions that we can bring to our preschoolers, and definitely some of the activities we can bring to our preschoolers. So this is another great way to experience math in the classroom. So they're going to be talking about geometry. All right, so let us reveal once again all of our domains for the Florida Early Learning Standards. And after watching that video and seeing all the different approaches to geometry, what other domains did you see that teacher connecting to her mathematics activity of the day? Were the children working on any of their physical development, language or literacy? Did you see aspects of social studies or scientific inquiry? A lot of language acquisition and yes, a lot of expressive and receptive language we saw a lot of. And then we also saw language and learning. So we also saw with language and learning, we could see emergent writing as they had opportunities, varied opportunities to write about their findings and about what they know about geometry. And then social emotional, I'm glad you saw that, Andrea. Yes, that social emotional component was there, as she really was very purposeful when she made sure there was a partner activity where they had to find the partner with their necklace and learn how to describe that shape together. So excellent observations for this. So I really liked this a lot because it gave different approaches to learning about geometry in a lot of different ways. And it made it very hands-on for the children. And it was things that they could connect with. It was like real life activities, like real life containers and shapes that they saw. And they also had an opportunity to use tools and technology. So there was a lot of interesting things happening, and even creative expression. I did see them writing and drawing and creating those shapes. So well done. So our last activity for this portion of our training, you guys got this. I think this is an easy one now since you have been doing also well. We're going to look at this activity plan and connect the domains and see what additional domains are also in this activity plan. And we're looking for the physical development all the way down to creative expression through the arts. And we can see here the objective of this is the children will compare numbers of letters in their name with the number of letters in their classmate's name. So that's the objective. And their main standard that they are working with is demonstrates an understanding of one-to-one correspondence while counting objects placed in a row, 1 to 5 and beyond, matching each item with the number that they are counting with. And you can read through the lesson here, and then you can start to type in what do you see. And of course, yes, language and literacy. It is definitely the most obvious one and a great observation, no less. They are using their names, which I love to use names to introduce children to letters because nothing is more important than their names. So what a good way to introduce numbers to the children as well in different ways. And you can definitely take this and extend on this. We can break up the names and have them count each letter individually, have them count the letters of their friends' names. You can definitely expand this. You can make a graph to compare the number of letters using their name with the number of letters in their classmate's name, bringing in some data understanding, and also helps connect to scientific inquiry. So we have seen a lot of different ways we can connect the domains, a lot of different ways they are intertwined. So as we have gone through these activities together, we're going to see what do we think about this? Math concepts can be intertwined with additional math domains. So you can learn math and something else at the same time, or provide or teach it. What do you think? True or false? I'm going to launch that poll now. It is open. Math concepts can be intertwined with additional domain areas. True or false? And we'll give everybody a couple moments to vote. We are coming in nice and fast and steadily. Excellent. We definitely 42% of us were paying attention and doing an excellent job of understanding and connecting those different domains with the mathematical domain. Okay, we're at 60% now. We'll give it a few more moments for everybody's vote to count. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from everybody. And now we are going to close down and share the results. And congratulations, everyone. You are able to take away one of our learning outcomes today, that math concepts can be intertwined with additional domain areas, and you actually were doing that in real time and identifying and observing those moments with precision. So kiss your brain, give yourself a pat on the back. It's late at night and you were able to be really great participants in that activity. So thank you all so much. Now we're gonna hand it over to Deborah and go through some mathematics and daily planning.
Yes, definitely kudos to you guys. I think this might have been the first time we've done a training where we had 100% of the audience get the results correct. So definitely, again, kudos to you all. We know it's late, but you guys are still really interactive and we really appreciate it. So again, we're going to go to mathematics and daily planning. Begin with the end in mind. You've seen this slide already. It's the reminder that when lesson planning, it's important to be intentional, right? So what do you want students to take from the lesson? What's the purpose of the lesson that's taking place? Are there any specific outcomes or goals in mind that you want for the child's development and for the learning skills? So there are many times throughout the day when math is incorporated. Sometimes it's a bit more straightforward and other times it's just intertwined. So with our circle time, we can use math as we count the numbers in our monthly calendar or when we read books that mention numbers such as Chicka Chicka 1, 2, 3. We might also sing songs that include counting or shapes and even something like the chart in front of you where we're going over different shapes in our classroom. These are all opportunities where mathematics components are mentioned and revealed. But we can also use math outdoors, right? So we can use objects in nature. That's definitely a wonderful way to get children to incorporate the two. So you might have a child write numbers and then trace over it with some leaves or other natural elements. Children might also decide to match the correct amount of objects to a number, such as the girl in the middle, right, with the pine cones, where she writes the number or someone has written the number on the ground, and then they're able to take some of those natural elements, gather them, and put it correctly and match it to the correct number. And of course, we have that schoolyard favorite, games such as hopscotch. It's an awesome opportunity to incorporate math and then also throw in some of that physical development in the mix too, right? And you can do this too with using even a beanbag and throwing it to a number. So then you have that number sense and number identity taking place, and then you have that physical movement from the child. And then social studies. It's a component that maybe you wouldn't see directly relate to math. But remember too that in social studies, we can show voting, and that's part of our civic ideas and practices. So you can have a poll for children to take and to vote on, like we see the young boy doing. It might be a written poll or something that they're just able to raise their hands and things like that. And then you can take their results and display it. And the children are able to have those conversations where they can count and they can compare, who likes popcorn more, or which snack was the favorite. And they're able to look at those results. Time, continuity, and change is also another component of social studies. And that's when children understand the sequencing of events and they establish a sense of order. So for that aspect, you can use something like the flashcards in front of you, which focus on order in which events can take place. And that's also just another great tool for kids to use. And remember that math can be included during our meal times. So we can have children count out the objects on their plate. They can match food to the correct number, and they can even attempt fractions or dividing a banana into several pieces like you see in front of you. A child can have conversations, right? They can be asked to make comparisons. Who has more blueberries? Who has less? With the other math activity with the fishes too, they're able to do that number sense. So definitely a lot of different ways to incorporate math during your meal times. Okay, and I'm going to hand it back over to Stephanie. She's going to talk about other times of the days where we can incorporate the math subject.
All right, thank you, Deborah. So yes, when we think about transitioning, it offers a multitudinous opportunities for us to use math during the day, multiple times throughout the day, which is excellent to really develop their early math skills. So when transitioning, in addition to math songs and finger plays that you use, we can clap simple patterns and have the children repeat them to know that there's a change about to occur, or even have the children line up in different patterns, boy, girl, for example, or give them different colored Post-it notes and have them do a pattern as if you're needing them to line up before they go to another area of the school. And then, of course, directional language can also be incorporated while guiding the children from one part of the day to another. And then I'd love to show this subsidizing transition activity here. You can see that in this picture, in this transition activity for number sense and subsidizing, you can show a child quickly a card with dots and have them tell you how many there are and have them show you that quantity in some way. So if she has 3, this child's going to show her the number 3 in some way. He could use his fingers, he could clap, he could jump up and down and get some physical development in there. There's multiple ways you can have the child express that understanding of that number in some way. And then also, lastly, what we can do is we can bring in those fabric dice and attach movement to numbers, and you can roll the dice and the child can do 5 times an action before they move to either their first center of the day, or to mealtime, or any time that you would find this an appropriate transition activity. So now we're going to think about scientific inquiry. And some of you also repeated this, that science and mathematical thinking is also, in my opinion, one of the closest to domains and the simplest to plan for and connect together and to get the most about the experiences that you're providing. So we understand that children have that natural curiosity about science, and they also have that natural curiosity about math concepts when they're presented to the children in meaningful ways. Science experiments and science experiences really provides those opportunities for many different components in mathematical thinking, such as if you are working on understanding the life of a plant, you can add measurement and tools here and even record them in your measurement and data book. You can hypothesize with the children, and it's a great opportunity to give them ways to explore measurement with non-traditional items to make it relatable to the children, make it hands-on, and help the children provide number sense by using these Unifix cubes. And then as we continue on and look, we can see that we can incorporate a lot of our different nature studies into our mathematical experiences. So first of all, there's many patterns that can be found in nature that the children can observe, whether measurement has patterns in number sense. And then you can also take these different subject areas and make different types of data displays like you see in the slide before you. I love the slide in the middle when they're talking about a butterfly coming from a chrysalis and turning into a butterfly, a caterpillar from a chrysalis to a butterfly. You can see its prediction and estimation, and they're going to have to use observation skills to be able to find out the answer to this question. So that is a really great way to connect math and scientific inquiry. And we also do a lot of learning about bugs and different natural elements, and math and science books are very popular right now. So I really recommend taking a look at your local library or wherever you like to find books, or wherever your school likes to order books, and see what there is out there. There's a lot of refreshing new mathematical and science books that really can help you connect and introduce concepts to your students. And then we saw a lot of math and creative expression, and especially in art, in those scenarios we discussed. We saw one completely taking place in the art room. You can give the children connectors and have them build 3D structures and work on their spatial relationships, and also give them the papers and they can make 3D sculptures and work on that directional language. You can bring in shapes by having children talk about different cultural experiences and techniques of art, such as mosaic art, or you can look at a famous artist's work and build upon that and inspire the children to create their own art, all using different shapes and fitting shapes into different ways to have a stronger understanding of these shapes. And then we can also tie it in again to cultural fabrics that are woven and have patterns. So there's a lot we can find in the art area for creative expression and mathematics. And then I also have these little children-made, handmade clackers here, which are musical instruments, which will make sense in a moment. So you might want to make a few of these. They're just made out of cardboard and bottle tops and bottle caps, and you can just click them. And why would we want to click them? Why would that help us in math? Well, that would be creating and producing rhythmic patterns with instruments. They can also use their hands or their body in some way. They can tap on their legs to produce different rhythmic patterns and to understand that. And then you can help them understand mathematical terms by using their bodies. So show me what tall looks like, and they can understand the feeling of their body feeling tall, and then the opposite of going down very, very short and low to the ground, so they can really understand the concept in their bodies, which will help them memorize that internally. And then we also can have fun with them and provide simple choreography, which provides sequencing experience. So you can add that into your movement activities or times and add some choreography to music. And you are not only working on creative expression, physical development, but you're also working on math. So where else can we see math? We've mentioned it many times this evening that language and literacy is definitely a great way to approach math and bring it into almost all the different areas of your day. Here, of course, we can introduce concepts using different mathematical books for children to understand something that we want to show them or introduce to them that they might not be familiar with, and find ways to have conversations to make connections to their own lives and make understandings of what they read within the book. Oh, and then we have, oh, that's interesting. My slides are on the sideways, so I'm sorry about that. But you can see that we can incorporate writing. So you can see that all about 4 chart. You can fill that out along with the students, and they can see emergent writing taking place right there. And as the year goes on, you can have them go forward and even start to practice and write along with you. And such as if a child can write the letter F, you let them write the letter F. Or if you know a child knows what a 4 looks like, you can have them make a 4. You can have another child who's ready to just draw 4 objects, or another child tally those marks. But of course, you want to practice this and model this, and then give them those opportunities, and choose the children who you know where their skills are at, so they can be successful and excited about math and learning. And then, of course, at the beginning of the year, we can just mix up numbers and letters and make them, sort them. And I identify and discuss what are the differences between numbers and letters. One set is that used for counting, and what does that mean? And one set is used for making sounds and for reading. So what does that mean? So once again, I apologize. I don't know how those slides flipped, but we'll continue on. I think you understand. And then, of course, we can bring in some more emergent writing into our different areas, such as the dramatic play area. You can give them a shopping list with different numbers of objects for them to count and shop for, or they can use a shopping list and you can guide them and say, find me 3 oranges, and then they find the 3 oranges and they get to check off the orange box on the worksheet on the right. So to tie this all up and to finish this out, we're also going to focus on that language aspect, because we really saw in multiple videos and sources and multiple examples that language, an expressive language and descriptive language, it was a huge component of bringing math into different parts of the day. So to bring all this together and connecting the other domains to math, we're going to watch how language is a very powerful tool in this clip called Using Math in Everyday Talk, while working through all these different domains. So we'll see how Math Talk supports learning. All right, so I hope you enjoyed watching that video clip of seeing Math Talk in action, supporting different areas.
Okay, so we're going to finish this out with talking a little bit more about other areas in math and how we can incorporate it throughout our day. So we can incorporate math throughout our dramatic play areas. So this can be that you set up a grocery store and you associate prices with the items in that store, right? So the bread costs $1 and maybe yogurt is another price, so that children can make that association that items do cost money, and a great way for them to use some of those math skills where maybe they have to pay that a certain amount. You can also let students practice using that money. We can have them use play phones to work on those those number recognitions, and even include games such as the ice cream cone one that you see on the screen, which it focuses on matching the correct number of items to that designated number, right? So many opportunities for dramatic play to incorporate math. Then we look at our sensory areas. So remember that you can incorporate it here as well. So you might have the students match the correct amount of beans to a number, or drawing using their finger for shaving cream. You can just provide lots of opportunities for these really hands-on experiences. And what I love too about the image on the right is that there's also that literature piece associated. So we have literature taking place, we have those sensory hands-on experiences, and we have math incorporated all in one activity. And then songs are a great way to introduce number sense and other mathematical concepts. So you can have songs that include counting up or counting down, songs about shapes. So like some of our favorites that we included would be The Ants Go Marching. So, with that one, it is a number sense that is counting up. And then when you have the other book, such as Five Little Monkeys, so the numbers are decreasing. And then, of course, there are a few songs out there that do include shapes. And this one is to the tune of Are You Sleeping? And once again, using books. So that's just another great opportunity to include mathematical concepts in your literature. So you can do those on number sense. So these are some of our favorites that we included, like Chicka Chicka 1, 2, 3, How Do Dinosaurs Count to 10, Feast for 10. So other opportunities that you can include in your literature area and read out loud. And remember too that shapes are another component of math. So round is a tortilla, a star in my orange, right? Shapes in the kitchen, because we already mentioned how food and meals can be a huge component of math. And finally, we're going to look at how we can involve our parents so that they can practice these skills at home.
Okay, so let's involve the families. So we have a question for you, and we want to know if you think it's true or false. This is, I believe, our last poll for this evening, so let's get 100% vote in. So get your typing fingers ready or your clicker ready. Children lose more literacy skills than math skills due to the summer slide. Is that true or is that false? So we will launch that poll now, and you should see it come up on your screen. Okay, is it true? Is it false? What do you all think? All right, so we have 52% voted. Let's get a few more votes in. And we will see, this one is a little bit of a mixed bag. Absolutely. I think it's a tricky question too. So we are going to close the poll in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Closing it up and sharing the results. And 34% of you have gotten it correct. Actually, 66% of you have it correct. No, I've misread this one. That double negative. Children lose more math skills than literacy skills due to the summer slide. So hear that again. They lose more math skills than literacy skills. So this statement is actually false. So 66% of you answered that question better than I did. So well done to everyone who voted.
That was definitely a tricky one. So.
Well, I think it's such a shocking statement because when I heard this, I would never have guessed it either. I would have totally said literacy skills. So, you know, it's something I learned. And So let's close this poll up, and we're going to go with a really quick short video because we know that there are a lot of math myths out there. And with our families, we want to make sure we're educating those math myths and we educating our families about what's really happening in early math. So those are some of those math myths we want to educate our families on so they understand that they have a strong role in understanding mathematical thinking with their children. So what can the families do? So 2 examples we have for you is definitely families can talk about math in picture books and bring in lots of different standards and components, counting, prediction, comparing and combining and contrasting, using, even if it's not a mathematical book, you can use the images in there to look for shapes or to count how many there are of a certain object. So then we also have follow recipes together because many families, almost most, do prepare food together at some way. So bring in the child and have them help you with a recipe. They can count and they can predict, they can measure, they can compare ingredients. So those are 2 really great opportunities that the families can bring into their everyday experiences. And then we also have a list here for you if you'd like to take a look at of some of the different areas that the families can sort, compare, and problem solve at home. We can sort laundry and find pairs and look at patterns, set the table and work on our one-to-one correspondence. We also talked about how great board games are. You can also create card games. And then I Spy, saying I spy a different shape and have the children find the shape in their area. So what resources can we offer these families? So we have the standards, and the section of the standards called Vroom is a connection, in connection to the standards. It's an organization that provides age-appropriate children activities for families and understanding of developmental milestones. We have apps and games. If families are going to give children tablets and phones, we want to make sure that they're giving them the most educational experience possible when they are using the technology at home. And then school, you're a resource because you're going to communicate math in different ways. So let's take a look at Vroom first and where we would find this resource. So you bring the families to the standards website actually, and that standards website, you just do a quick Google search, OEL standards, VPK, and it will pop right up the first link in Google. And then you can see that there is a part here that says Vroom on the bottom of standard number 1, and it shows a video clip image and an information dot. So we can click on that room and we can see that they're going to give us different ways that the families can engage in and demonstrate this specific standard of exploring quantities up to 8 using fingers and dramatic play to solve real world joining and separating of problems. So they can sing and act out games about sets that increase and decrease. Or they can also use these awesome activities that are already prepared and thought of that you can just share in a newsletter. You can share in many different ways to get the families thinking about math at home. And this one is a great idea. You pick a color of a letter with your child and go on a scavenger hunt to find as many things as you can in 3 minutes, such as how many things in the house are blue, and then they count out loud as you find each object. And you can also do this with letters, so it doesn't have to just stop at mathematics activity. And then we want to really be mindful of what technology we do recommend for the students, especially when they go off to summer and off to kindergarten. We want to be mindful. We have great resources out there. There's education.com, PBS.org, or PBS app. They do a lot of shows and focus on early math, not just literacy and social emotional skills, but there's a heavy amount of mathematics available in there as well. And we even saw Khan Academy Kids. So there's many different resources that we can provide to the families to be able to bring math home and keep the children in a mathematical thinking sense in order to keep those skills fresh and ready for their next developmental milestone. All right, so we have gone through a lot of information together, and now it's time for some R&R, and I wish that was rest and relaxation, but that really means review and reflection. So we can review our learning objectives, what we can take away with us tonight, and what we've all learned together. Okay, so important points for us to remember as we leave this evening: that children lose more mathematical skills and literacy skills due to the summer slide, which was very surprising to me and to some of you in our participants to this evening. And we also discussed how children need hands-on experiences to understand mathematical concepts, because some concepts are way too abstract for them to understand in their head. So they need to physically feel and touch it to understand it. And then we know that math is about number knowledge, pattern size, shape awareness, and the relationship between objects and space. And then, of course, we discussed what mathematics builds, and that mathematics builds reasoning, which is very important because it leads to that comprehension skill, and for comprehension applied to any learning domain. And math concepts can be used in other subject areas, as we saw this evening. So let's double check and make sure that we hit our goals for this evening. And the first one now, after this evening, we are now able to identify the mathematical learning domain, and we know it has how many components? 6 components. And then now, all of you can now explain how to connect that mathematical standards domain along with the other early learning mathematical domains. You did it in action. Many of you had great observations and were able to see those connections and how to enhance different lessons in different times of the day. And we discovered different times of the day, specifically where mathematics can be incorporated into some different ideas in your daily planning and your schedule. So this is our final chat box reflection. This is the final time we're going to ask you to chat in our box today. So we're curious to know that where in your daily schedule do you want to incorporate more early math throughout the day? What have you taken away from today? What ideas or suggestions or even moments that you just came to realization? Where do you want to incorporate more math through your day? Where could you focus more on math? Transition times, I think that's a great opportunity, and they happen so many, so definitely adding math to transition times would be very beneficial. And during daily interactions while the children play and adding that conversation piece about mathematics, excellent. And during meal times, yes, that offers a great opportunity for us to sit and take time to communicate with the children and use what they have in front of them to have those mathematical conversations. So thank you everyone for these great ideas coming in and working on math in centers and within group activities. Yes, because that also, we can do that and we can work on our social emotional skills as we work together with peers. And then we can incorporate math into the everyday and use repetition throughout the day. Absolutely, you want to repeat concepts that you are working on throughout the day in different experiences. And then asking more math questions throughout the day so we can do different activities as centers. Absolutely. So you guys are right on point of finding great new ways to incorporate more math so your children are getting more out of their experience of that short 3 little hours of VPK.
Okay, so we're just going to wrap up right now. Again, thank you everyone for just keeping up with us this evening and participating and writing into the chat box and answering our polls. We really appreciate it. And we just want to have a few reminders about our webinar tonight. Remember that you are going to receive in-service hours for today's webinar. It's going to be emailed to the email address in which you signed up for this webinar. And you are going to receive a post-test as well as a survey at the end of this interaction. Please make sure that you complete both so that you can receive your in-service hours. And lastly, we did want to just share with you all that we have an educational technical assistance request form. This is something we're really excited about, and we just want to draw your attention to it. It's an effort to bring our support to all of our Broward County providers in a variety of ways. So you can just go to the website, the elcbroward.org website, and providers will, for providers, you're going to have coaches reach out to you in things that you have further interest in, so different topics that you can choose from. And once you submit that request form, someone will again contact you, and then we'll figure out what's going to be the best method to assist in this matter. So some of the topics that are included could be standards, class assessments, so anything like that. If you're interested, please go to our website, fill out the form, and someone will get back to you on it.
Yeah, sorry, I can't copy and paste the link in right now. It won't allow me, but you can just go to our elcbroward.org website, like Deborah said, and under the provider section, you go to quality and education, and you'll locate the form there. So that was where you'll find it. So, and then.
And again, thank you for attending tonight's webinar. If you have any questions, comments, you can feel free to reach myself or Stephanie using our ELC email address. So we'll stay on for a few more moments, but again, thank you all for coming to tonight's webinar.
Thank you, everyone. It's been such a pleasure working with you and learning with you this evening. Everyone really enhanced this webinar experience by participating, so I really enjoyed working with you this evening. So thank you, everyone. And please fill out your survey and all that post-test information so you can make sure you receive that certificate. So thank you and have a great evening. And we really appreciate all of you attending this evening and giving us your time and attention.